Hey guys, this is Bella. She's the one you haven't met yet. She's the big one who doesn't get up in the chair. She's my German Shepherd Rottweiler mix. That's Lily howling behind her. And now they're all here. Well, yeah, this is Bella. She's 12 and a half. She's the grandmama of everybody. She's my sweet, sweet baby. All right, so with that, we will get back to the table.
Okay, and here we are, back in position. Got the cool bookshelf behind me. If I did say so myself. All right, we are starting Act 5, Scene 1, on a street in Mantua. So this is the first time we've seen Mantua. Depends on the director, how they want to depict Mantua. Remember, Romeo basically compared Verona to heaven and life, and Mantua to death and purgatory. So the director would probably take that kind of stuff into account. On the other hand, if it's on the stage, probably not going to be much set anyway, so maybe they just work with lighting and different ways to make it look more desolate and decrepit. In Baz Luhrmann's version, it is a abandoned mobile home park in the middle of the desert. So it's nothing but dirt and sand, and yeah, it's they changed the color palette of the on the camera, so everything's kind of has this tan orange color. Hey, hush. Sorry. Okay. We're on Act 5, Scene 1, a street in Mantua. So Romeo's going to start out talking about a dream that he has had. Remember the theme, one of the major themes in our story, in our play, is the idea of dreams, the power of dreams to foretell the future, and that you should pay attention to the dreams. Of course, Mercutio completely disagreed with that, as was evidenced by his Queen Mab speech, where he was making fun of Romeo for believing in dreams, that if he believes in dreams, then he should and must believe in Queen Mab. Okay? So we're going to pick up with Act 5, Scene 1. Enter Romeo on a street in Mantua. Keep in mind, we haven't seen Romeo since the end of Act 3. He was not in Act 4 at all. That was all Juliet's story. Right? So now we're getting it from Romeo's point of view. He says, "If I may trust the flattering truth of sleep, my dreams presage some joyful news at hand." Basically means if I can believe the truth of my dreams, which reveal things that I like to hear, something good is going to happen. Says, "My bosom's lord sits lightly in his throne, and all this day an unaccustomed spirit lifts me above the ground with cheerful thoughts." All right, so that word presage means foretell, so it's promising some joyful news, and so he personifies his bosom, his chest, as having a lord sitting lightly on his throne. So basically saying he's walking upright, he's in a good mood, he has an unaccustomed spirit that has him lifted above the ground, floating above the ground with cheerful thoughts. He says, "I dreamt my lady came and found me dead." This is the second time Romeo has had a dream where he's dead. Remember, the first one was right before Mercutio's Queen Mab speech. So now, though, he says that it was his lady who came and found him dead. It's a strange dream that gives a dead man leave to think. But then he says that she breathed such life with kisses in my lips that I revived and was an emperor. Ah me, how sweet is love itself possessed, when but love's shadows are so rich in joy. Okay, so it was a dream where he was dead, and Juliet came and brought him back to life and turned him into an emperor when she revived him. He says, how sweet is love itself possessed. But suddenly, Romeo's man Balthasar arrives. Okay? Romeo was in a great mood, and Romeo's man Balthasar arrives. He sees him. He's excited. My book says that he is booted, which means that he has been riding, like riding a horse. Romeo says, "News from Verona. How now, Balthasar? Dost thou not bring me letters from the friar? How doth my lady? Is my father well? How fares my Juliet? That I ask again, for nothing can be ill if she be well." Balthasar probably hears that, and his face, no doubt, drops a bit. He says, "Then she is well, and nothing can be ill. Her body sleeps in Capel's monument, and her immortal part with angels lives. I saw her laid low in her kindred's vault, and presently took post to tell it to you." All right, so he says, nothing can be ill if she be well. So in order to tell Romeo that things are ill, things are bad, he says, then she is well, and nothing can be ill. And this is kind of a weird backwards way of telling him. Then he gets to the point and says, Her body sleeps in the Capulet monument. Her immortal part, her soul, is with the angels. It's where angels lives. He says, I saw her laid low in her kindred's vault. That vault is that sepulchre, this building in which the Capulets house all of their dead. Tybalt would be in there. Everyone who had ever died from the last 100 to 200 years would be in that Capulet's vault. He says, I saw her laid low in her kindred's vault, and presently took post to tell it to you. Took post means he, where is it? He immediately rode here on horseback. That's what it means, take post. It means get on your horse and ride. So he says, I presently took post to tell it to you. Oh, pardon me for bringing these ill news, since you did leave it for my office, sir. So he begs his pardon. He had to bring in that bad news, but it was his job to deliver the news from Verona. So he asked Romeo's pardon. Romeo reacts, is it even so? Then I defy you, stars! Thou knowest my lodging. Get me ink and paper and hire post horses. I will hit tonight. So I defy you, stars. I rebel against you. He tells Balthasar, you know where my house is. Give me some ink and paper. I need to write something, and then hire me some horses. We're going to Verona tonight. Balthasar, I do beseech you, sir, have patience. Your looks are pale and wild, and do import some misadventure. Okay. I don't think that needs much explanation, but Balthasar is clearly worried about Romeo here. He beseeches her to have patience. He's begging him to have patience, to not run off in this crazy fury, and he's afraid for his safety, Romeo's safety. Romeo, tush, thou art deceived. Leave me, and do the thing I bid thee do. Hast thou no letters to me from the friar? No, my good lord. No matter. Get thee gone, and hire those horses. I'll be with thee straight. Once Balthasar leaves, he's able to really express his true inner thoughts in a soliloquy. Balthasar's gathering their horses to go to Verona. He says, well, Juliet, I will lie with thee tonight. Let's see for means. O mischief, thou art swift to enter in the thoughts of desperate men. Okay, what do you think he means? Let's see for means. Basically, the means to an end, the way that he can get to his goal, to lie with Juliet tonight. Well, he says, mischief comes. These destructive thoughts come quickly to the minds of desperate men. It's worded well over here. Destructive thoughts come quickly to the minds of desperate men. And then he says, I do remember an apothecary, and hereabouts he dwells. So he's no doubt walking. It seems that he's outdoor in town of Mantua somewhere. He comes to a door, and he says, oh, this is where the apothecary lives. He says, which late I noted in tattered weeds with overwhelming brows, culling of simples. Okay? This, about... That just means that he is picking herbs to use in medicines, like simple potions kind of thing. That's what he means by simples. He says that lately he noted him in tattered weeds or tattered clothes, culling of simples. He says meager were his looks. Sharp misery had worn him to the bones, and in his needy shop a tortoise hung, an alligator stuffed, and other skins of ill-shaped fishes, and about his shelves a beggarly account of empty boxes, green earthen pots, bladders and musty seeds, remnants of pack thread and old cakes of roses were thinly scattered to make up a show. So he's describing this apothecary's shop, but he said he looked meager. He looked very poor, miserable, worn out. And he starts to describe what his shop actually looked like, and all through it we get the adjectives are a beggarly account of empty boxes, right? He's talking about just to show how poor this apothecary is. An apothecary is, just a reminder, apothecary is someone who makes potions, who makes medicines. And as Friar Lawrence talked about, you can make medicines, but you can also make poisons. This is noting this penury. Penury is another word for poverty, and it's kind of an old English word for poverty. So he says, noting this poverty, to myself I said, and if a man did need a poison now, whose sale is present death in Mantua, here lives a caitiff wretch would sell him. Caitiff is a miserable, a pitiable wretch of a man who would sell it to him. So he's an apothecary, he sells medicine, but he's like, this guy's so poor that if you give him enough money, he would probably give you poison. But, important point here, sale is present death in Mantua. If you sell someone poison, then you yourself can be killed for it. Okay? He says, here lives someone poor enough who would sell it to me. Oh, this same thought did but forerun my need, and this same needy man must sell it to me. As I remember, this should be the house. Being holiday, the beggar's shop is shut. What? Ho! Apothecary! No doubt it's knocking. The apothecary enters. Who calls so loud? Come hither, man. I see that thou art poor, Romeo says. Hold, there is 40 ducats. So he holds up a bag of money with 40 ducats. Ducats are coins, gold coins. Says, let me have a dram of poison. Such soon-speeding gear as will disperse itself through all the veins, that the life-weary taker may fall dead, and that the trunk may be discharged of breath as violently as hasty powder fired doth hurry from the fatal cannon's womb. Out of a figurative language here, and a very poetic way to say that he needs poison that will kill him. It says it's a dram of poison. A dram is just a small amount, a dose of poison, and he wants it to work fast. Such soon-speeding gear as will disperse itself through all the veins, so the poison will disperse through all his veins, and the life-weary taker, the person who took the poison, who is just so tired of life, would just fall dead immediately. He says the trunk may be discharged of breath. This is the trunk, the main part of your body. He says it be discharged of breath as violently as hasty powder fired from a cannon. This is what he wants, something that is going to work very fast. Apothecary says, such mortal drugs I have, but Mantua's law is death to any he that utters them. So he says, I have stuff like that, but the penalty is death if I sell it to you. Romeo says, art thou so bare and full of wretchedness, and fearest to die? Famine is in thy cheeks, need and oppression starveth in thine eyes. Contempt and beggary hangs upon thy back. The world is not thy friend, nor the world's law. The world affords no law to make thee rich. Then be not poor, but break it and take this. And he holds out the money. So he points out to the apothecary how poor he is. And he says, you can see famine in your cheeks. You have need, you have oppression, your eyes are starving. And he says, the law is not your friend. If the law was your friend, you'd be paid better. And there wouldn't be laws against you selling what people want, like poison, for example. So he says, world's not your friend, take my money. Will he take it? As soon as I turn the page. Apothecary tells him, my poverty, but not my will, consents. And Romeo says, I pay thy poverty, and not thy will. Apothecary gives Romeo the poison, says, put this in any liquid thing you will, and drink it off. And if you had the strength of 20 men, it would dispatch you straight. So no matter if you're as strong as 20 men, it would dispatch you straight. It would kill you right away. Romeo gives the apothecary the money. He says, there is thy gold, worst poison to men's souls, doing more murder in this loathsome world than these poor compounds that thou mayest not sell. I sell thee poison, thou hast sold me none. So Romeo gives him money and says, this is the true poison. Gold is the true poison to people's souls. And he says, gold does more murder in this terrible, awful world than any of these poisons that you're not allowed to sell. So he says, I sell thee poison. You've given me nothing. You've given me something else entirely. I give you poison by giving you gold. Interesting commentary on money. So, it says, I sell thee poison, thou hast sold me none. Farewell, buy food, and get thyself in flesh. Come, cordial, he speaks to the poison. He says, come, cordial, and not poison. Go with me to Juliet's grave, for there must I use thee. So cordial is a healthy drink, something that's supposed to help you when you're sick. And he says, this is what's going to help me now. It's not poison, it's a cordial. He says, so we both go to Juliet's grave, for there must I use thee. One thing that we might wonder at the end of Act 5, Scene 1, is what happened with the friar. Friar Lawrence was supposed to keep Romeo in the loop. Friar Lawrence was supposed to have sent him a letter. Remember, he said he was going to have one of his order send Romeo a letter to let him know what's happening. And instead, Balthasar got there first. But Friar Lawrence did try to send this letter through Friar John. In Act 5, Scene 2, as we begin, we're going to see what happened with that. All right? A series of unfortunate events. Enter Friar John. Friar John says, Holy Franciscan brother, Holy Franciscan friar, brother, ho! Enter Friar Lawrence. This same should be the voice of Friar John. Welcome from Mantua. What says Romeo? Or, if his mind be writ, give me his letter. So he's like, oh, it's my old friend Friar John. How's Romeo doing? And if he wrote down what he wanted to say, let me see his letter. Friar John says, well... He says, going to find a barefoot brother out. A barefoot brother is a monk, a fellow monk. He says, going to find another monk, one of our order, to associate me here in this city, visiting the sick, and finding him, the searchers of the town, suspecting that we both were in a house where the infectious pestilence did reign, sealed up the doors and would not let us forth, so that my speed to Mantua there was stayed. All right, sounds familiar for us, huh? Pestilence is a disease, an infectious disease is reigning. And so whether that was a reference to the plague or perhaps a respiratory illness like COVID-19, whatever it was, he is quarantined. So he went there to get this fellow monk who was there visiting the sick in a house, and the city officials came and saw him and the monk and said, hey, everyone's got to be quarantined now, and they shut them up in that house and would not let him out. So Friar John was not able to make it to Mantua because he was being quarantined. Sound familiar? Friar Lawrence, who bare my letter then to Romeo? I could not send it, Friar John replies. Here it is again, and he gives Friar Lawrence back his letter. He says, nor get a messenger to bring it thee. So fearful were they of infection. So he's like, I couldn't even find a messenger. They were so afraid of this plague that was ravaging Mantua. Friar Lawrence, unhappy fortune! By my brotherhood, the letter was not nice, but full of charge, of dear import, and the neglecting it may do much damage. Excuse me, danger. So he says the letter wasn't just nice, it wasn't just full of niceties, it wasn't just, hey, how's it going? Oh gosh, the weather's nice here, you know. That's not what the letter was, he's telling Friar John. He says it was important, it was full of charge, it was very important. And he says neglecting it, not getting it to Romeo, may do much danger. To Romeo, to Juliet, to everybody. He says that was the key component, is Romeo knowing what had happened. And Friar John, due to unhappy fortune, as Friar Lawrence points out, was not able to deliver that letter. He says, Friar John, go hence. Get me an iron crow and bring it straight into my cell. So he sends Friar John to go get him a crowbar, essentially, an iron crow. They had him in there. And to bring it straight into his cell. So he goes to get him a crowbar. Brother, I'll go and bring it thee, Friar John says, and exits. Friar Lawrence, now must I to the monument alone. Within this 3 hours will fair Juliet wake. She will beshrew me much that Romeo hath had no notice of these accidents. But I will ride again to Mantua, and keep her at my cell till Romeo come. Poor living corpse, closed in a dead man's tomb. Okay? So the plan originally was for Romeo to arrive and Friar Lawrence and he go into Juliet's tomb and awaken her. She's going to wake up in just 3 hours. And he says, she will beshrew me much for this. Beshrew means to blame. She will blame me much. She'll chew me out that Romeo had no notice of these accidents, these happenings. Romeo did not receive the letter, and so he had no notice of these happenings. But he's going to ride again to Mantua. Hopefully Romeo's still there, Friar Lawrence is assuming. And he says, I'll keep her at my cell till Romeo comes. So he'll keep Juliet in his own quarters, hide her in his quarters until Romeo arrives. And then he referring to Juliet, says, poor living corpse, closed in a dead man's tomb. Okay? That was his plan after all, but yeah, now he is regretting it because, remember, his plan was very intricate. It was this, and then you guys live happily ever after. Well, if this is pulled out, it's like a Jenga tower and the whole thing falls. And this is what is happening now. And Friar Lawrence has a bad feeling in the pit of his stomach. He feels bad for Juliet. He thinks something bad's going to happen with Romeo. He is not in a good place. His plan is starting to go awry. All right. Tomorrow we're going to read Act 5, Scene 3. Not tomorrow, Monday, I should say. Act 5, Scene 3 is long, and it is the end. It is the end of the play. So Act 5, Scene 3 contains the catastrophe. Remember, we have the triangle, the way that a dramatic pyramid works. Up here at the top is the, there we are. Up here at the top was the climax, or the crisis. That was Act 3, Scene 1, when Tybalt, Mercutio, and Romeo's banished. Tybalt, they're dead, Romeo banished. That was the crisis, and everything else goes downhill until you get to the catastrophe. In a tragedy, you don't have a resolution. That resolution in a tragedy is called the catastrophe. And so we're about to see what happens in the catastrophe in Act 5, Scene 3. All right. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Work on your study guide for these two scenes, at least, and get your Friday free write done today. If you like your Friday free write, if you wrote a story or you want to express something for your fellow students to hear, I will read it at the end of Monday's screencast. Okay? Let me make myself big in order to just say goodbye. Have a great weekend. It was fun. And we're almost through with Romeo and Juliet. So next week you're going to have a film study. You get to watch a movie version, or more than one if you want. Okay. Have a terrific day. It's not working.